Skal jeg dreje lidt, måske? Ja, var det ikke en god idé? Faktisk.
We are actually live now.
Are we
And we are live now, and I have the pleasure to introduce the world to Merete Gundersen, who is a Nordic thought leader and has been for years and years, probably before many of you were born, because Merete is one of these pioneers that has been pioneering the paradigm that we are entering right now. And that's why I wanted to introduce the world to Merete. And I have actually asked her to speak in English, although she has been working in Danish for many, many years. So this is a big honor for all of us that Merete was willing to come on board and speak to us in English about her experience, because I really want to acknowledge the people who have, that we're all standing on the shoulders of. There are people who have been working on opening the gates for the paradigm that we're all about to enter, or that we're all entering right now, for years and years. And I just think it's important to acknowledge the roots and say thank you to the people who have done a lot of work before it was fashionable to talk about SQ and to talk about the new paradigm and the new earth and all the things that are being broadcast now as normal new consciousness stuff in business and in life. So welcome to Merete, and thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. It's an honor for me to be here together with you, and it's an honor to meet you. We have known each other for several years, but never done that kind of work we are doing right now. So yes, it's an honor because you are also a leading person to the new paradigm and the new shift, and especially the feminine leadership is your case. So thank you very much for asking me to this big challenge for me. So I try to do my best.
That's great. So Merete, I wrote I announced this this broadcast. I said what you're going to need from now on in your life, no matter if you're a business person, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a housewife, if you are unemployed, if you're young, if you're old, whatever you are, what you're going to need from now on, if you want to survive and thrive in the 21st century, is something called SQ. And yes. Merete is a specialist in SQ. So I thought Merete is the best one to ask, what is SQ?
Yes. SQ is the future upcoming for people to get a bigger mind, to get the consciousness expand to a lot more in the future. It's necessary for us, for all the people all around the world, precisely as you said, for all of us, because SQ is a further on dimension in spirituality. You have to get consciousness higher up, you can say. You have to be open your heart a lot more to the love for yourself, for your duty, for everything in the family, in your business. So you have to step up for yourself to find the SQ within yourself. SQ is a question about inner life and outer life. So you have to work very hard with your outer life and then bring on into your inner life. SQ is mostly renewal to the inner life. You have to catch up. What can your inner life bring to you? Because the inner life is just as big as your outer life, but your outer life nowadays is where you are 100% nearly during the day. But the inner life is, the more you work with your inner life, you will expand your consciousness, and then you will realize you from there can get a lot of help from all the cosmic helpers, we can call them. For myself, I got changed totally when I was in my last 40s, 49 exactly. Then I meditate for the first time in my life, and then I suddenly removed my normal consciousness and left into the space, so to speak. And in the space, I met a big light, and I followed with my consciousness that big light, and it was very beautiful, and I was filled with love so much. So you can't even imagine it on the earth. And in that light, your normal consciousness already has started a new way. So in that light, I met several persons from my life who was dead, and they told me how lovable I was, and I was released from a lot of traumas on that meditation. And when I came back, I knew for sure that something very special has happened for me. And as the years went by, it came to be true, because I realized that I had an inner life where I could consult, and the inner life could help me to expand and change my whole life, because suddenly I could write a lot of articles about SQ. So I started to be educated from my inner life. I have never taken a big education in about SQ. I have reached it all from my higher consciousness, which I gained at that time. So higher consciousness is to live with outer life and inner life, and it is, you have to how can I say it? You have to silence your outer life a great deal, and then you have to have had a very strong believing in what you will experience in your inner life. You have to have trust. And the first time I got an information from my inner life was one night. I opened my I was half in sleep and half awake, and then they said in my mind, the thought forms electromagnetic intelligent. And I was only a housewife with 4 children and living in Spain, and never learned anything, and I didn't really know what it meant. So when the same sentence was said in my head 5 times, I thought, what to do now? And then I went to my room and opened my computer, and then I had made a headline, and suddenly I could write a totally article about thought forms, electromagnetic thought forms. And the next morning I laid on my desk, and the next morning I read it, and I was a little bit afraid, and my husband said to me, Merete, how do you know that this is true? And I had to tell him that I didn't know, but I trusted. And afterward, continue with a lot of information about light, and I had a lot of experience meeting a lot of life in the inner life. So I trusted, and suddenly I could launch my first book, The Spiritual, what it was translating, The Spiritual Human. And it all came to me in short articles. What I gained there was I gained a bigger intelligence, and that's why everyone should open for their SQ, because you will experience that you are much more than you have learned in school.
So this is wonderful. I'm just going to break you a little bit because to sum up, so SQ, as I understand it, is spiritual intelligence, right? So we talk about IQ, mental intelligence, we talk about emotional intelligence, and you talk about spiritual intelligence and has done it for decades. And I think spiritual intelligence is actually a part of the brain, right? It's
Yes.
actually part of our brain that has access to that, and we have not been used to using that.
Yeah.
We've used the reptile brain, which is our instincts. We've used the middle brain, which is our mental intelligence and our ability to connect things, and our emotional intelligence. But the spiritual intelligence has not hitherto been common to use. It's been like special.
Kirsten, the spiritual intelligence is mostly in the part of the brain in the higher hemisphere, because the left is the linear brain. So SQ is when you meet the light from cosmos, from your soul, from your loving heart, then some parts in the brain suddenly get so much light that the neurons will expand, and it will that information will flow much quicker in your brain, because it comes much faster than if I read something and I had to learn something. It gets more difficult to learn from a book when you use very much your right brain. I have a little bit unbalanced, because I am nearly too much in the right brain. I am too much in my spiritual intelligence all the time. But we all have to come where I am. But in the start, it is that we should open for the SQ, so that the brain will expand, new ideas will come forward, and it is also what very many scientists already used. They don't even know they used it, but they have so many ideas. But now it has to you have to bring it into your own life and normal people's life. So it's about the 3H. It is heart, brain. It's because it's in Danish. It's 3H. It is the heart. You have to work with your mind very much, and you have to get rid of all your bad habits, your unhappy future, thoughts, past, yes. And then you have to open your heart very much for love to yourself and to your whole life. Then you have you will get ready to open your third eye. And when you open your third eye, and then you have tried to experience with clairvoyance, and for several years you expand more and more in your SQ in the brain, and then suddenly you will maybe experience that you will meet your guardian angel, and later again you will be contacted to your soul. So that it is heart, brain, angel, soul. So when you get the soul contact, you are in contact with what is your life purpose, really. It's not what you learned in school, it's not what your parents told you to be or not to be. It is what was the meaning with your life. And I can say from my own experience that when I first had written the first article, much more came to me, and I learned to trust really that it was necessary to get it down in books. And now I have written 5 books about the spiritual human being, and now I am coming up next year with number 6. Really, number 6 has been laying in my computer for several years, to be honest. So it is when you get in contact with your soul, you get a new information, your life expands, you get more and more love into your life. The person who meets you are all lovable. And when you work with your soul purpose, then you will automatically regain new people coming into your life, and so they will help you to get all arranged so that the highest purpose for your life will be what happened to you.
Wow.
And for the bigger picture for the world, if you imagine all over the world, if every people lived in connection with their soul, you will have a much more loving population. So I recommend, of course, all to start to meditate. I recommend everyone to yoga, for example. But I also recommend to pray, really to learn to pray, because prayer will get you more and more information, because it is normal for me to sit down on this chair before we started, and suddenly I can move my consciousness like I am, of course, sitting in my chair, but I am consciousness also in another place, in consciousness in cosmos. So very quickly I feel my consciousness, my thought forms is of a different sort, I can say. So I will very soon see the living entities living in cosmos, which will help me get through our speech. It's very normal, and when we are ready, I slowly will be put backwards again to my normal day work. So it's SQ is is really to expand.
Yeah, and that's why I say that I think we will need this in 23 and beyond, and we have already needed for a long time, but now it's getting clear that with the normal linear mind,
yes,
we have limited access to limited ideas, limited perspectives, limited outlook, and things can look very dark and very impossible. It can look like we're hitting wall after wall after
yes.
wall after wall.
Yeah.
And that's why I say we probably will all need to open up to a different, a higher intelligence, a higher mind, a higher consciousness, in order to see, oh, but that wall, I actually don't need to hit the wall. I can actually go up and find a solution that's above the wall. So,
Yeah.
and we need to do that in every single area. I think we in the environment, with the climate, with the inflation, with the economy, all areas, we need to upgrade our thinking to get access to the solutions.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, Merete, that what Merete talks about, it sounds, I mean, for many people, for people who are used to linear thinking, for people who have not any experience with SQ, it might sound like really weird. I mean, you write articles, you get access to entities in cosmos, you know, it sounds really woo-woo. I mean, many people would say, like your husband, how can you know this is true? Yeah. But what I'd like to say, and that's why I called upon Merete, is that the interesting thing about living in this time is that nowadays more and more science actually backs up what you are experiencing, what you have experienced in your life. It is more and more being backed up by science. Science recognizing, yes, most of us only use 10% of our brain, and those who get access to other parts of the brain just have a completely different outlook. They get completely different experiences. The world is so much bigger than we thought. And we can even measure soul consciousness. We can measure with now, I mean, the last 20 years, we've learned so much more about the brain and the nervous system and the heart. So many of the things that used to be mystical are now being backed up by science. It can be measured. So it's not mystical anymore. So we can answer your husband, well, actually now we can more and more say, we can more and more prove it's true.
Yes, it is true. There's a lot of science, especially in America, but also in Denmark. And I see my own work as I have to bring it out. It's necessary for me to bring it out. And I think we are the underground, because it's so special, a lot of the stuff we have brought to also for you. And then suddenly we get more and more, because you educate some people, I educate some people, and many, many more. So if you look into the spirituality as a whole, you can see it expands in every corner all over the world. And the young ones is very, very fond of it and wants to deep into it. So suddenly, mainstream Denmark, worldwide also, started to deep into it, because we really, you and me and many other, have a higher goal with our work. We want it has to be, it should bring into the every kind of work in Denmark, the schools, the teachers, the nurses, the whatever. So SQ is the future human being raising up to a higher consciousness, which bring much more new knowledge, new technology, new science, which can solve all those kind of problems you just mentioned, especially the climate change and the supply of everything we have in the world. So SQ is not only about inner life and outer life. It is spread out. Is it a new paradigm? Totally new paradigm. And when it takes so long time is because we are all women and men. We are very much drama queens. We make so much trouble for ourselves. And when we make trouble for ourselves, we also do it for in our family. And very often, even though I know a lot of SQ, I'm only a human being. So I can also feel a little bit down sometimes, and then I go like two persons. The person who is in the higher consciousness, and I start to tell the lower me, Merete, what are you doing? I can see myself do the wrong things. That's also something you will gain when you are open from the spiritual. You have another kind of dialogue. You have something in the brain which try to take you away from all that drama you are also capable to do in your life. So you also learn to let something goes away from you very quickly, so that you more and more of the time can be creative. That's you have to expand also your intuition, because the intuition is a higher energy trying to help you getting more and more in contact with your spiritual intelligence. So it is the future. It is started for, I think it came just before year 2000, and the last 22 years, it has expanded a lot. So I think I look forward to meet the main character. I'm 77 years, and I'm so sorry that I can't live about 50 years ahead, because I'm sure that SQ is open in most of the people. And
Yeah,
then
we are in this
world.
Yeah, we are absolutely in this transition from one era to another. We're in the beginning of a third millennium, so we're just like taking the baby steps into the third millennium. But of course, if we look 50 years ahead, everything is going to be very, very different. But what I think is very important for us who live at this time is to know that we are the ones who shape the future.
Yeah.
So the future will also be shaped according to what kind of intelligence are we using to shape the future. Are we using the regular intelligence, which is all about survival and me, the instincts, the fear-based part of ourselves, where we're all afraid and in lack all the time, and fighting and competing and holding each other down? Is that the part we will shape the future, or will we shape the future with our heart, opening our heart more, releasing our traumas more, opening up to a higher intelligence, different dimensions, higher perspectives that are more holistic and more in touch with the bigger picture? If we create the future from there, for sure it will be a brighter future.
Yeah.
So that's why I think at this point it's very important when we are really at a choice point with what part of ourselves are we shaping the future. And let's acknowledge that many of us are still stuck in fear. Like, oh my God, is what's going to happen to me? And still stuck in the me survival. Like many people right now, we're recording this around New Year's. And there's like sort of both an anxiety, like, oh, how's the new year going to go? And also an excitement. Hopefully it's going to go better. But it will not change unless we change.
No.
That's the whole point.
No.
So if we change and if we grow up, if we use more and more the real intelligence we actually have access to, our future will, of course, be different. And then again, I'm one of those people who knows that you can't control your future. I've experienced a lot of things that I didn't want to experience, such as death and illness and stuff like that. So it's not that we can control the future, but we can use our intelligence to meet the future and shape whatever meets us, shape it in such a way that it becomes an upgrade and becomes an expansion, becomes more loving, more heartful. That's the possibility all of us have. And that's why I think this is an important conversation at this time, because we are the creators of our future, in the sense that the way we meet what's inside of us and what's outside of us is creating the path ahead. So you do have a lot to say.
Yes, I agree totally with you. And besides the fear, I think that there is one more thing that maybe is more important, or equally important, I can say. It is to be a peacemaker. You have to be a peacemaker, and it's a very, very, very big area. It's so difficult. I have myself worked with it for several years, and finally this year I went to Assisi for travel, and then I gained a lot of fear. So troublemaker we are, in a sense that has to stop, and then you have to get peace with the person you are. Just like as you are born, you are a perfect person. You are you have the abilities and the intelligence, which is so much you. You don't have to change, but you have to don't make all that noise in the ether. You can say, don't make all that gossip. Don't hit the wall, as you said. Make peace, and then you make peace in your inner life. It's much more easy to have a beautiful life. And very, very many people want really in their heart to help others to get a better life. But you can't help others if you don't work with yourself to get totally peace and love. Peace and love is also one of the best assets to your soul and your soul purpose. And there is nothing else that you can compare. I can say for myself that the most beautiful thing in my own life and the happiest thing happened to me was when I opened for my SQ. When I trusted, because very quickly I experienced that I was good enough. What I could bring to the world was important, because we are all so important. There is a meaning with everybody's life on earth. We are not here for tilfældighed.
Not by coincidence. We all have a purpose.
No. We are here for a so important message. We all have something to bring to it, not only our family, but also to the world. When somebody dies, you will really could experience that you are a part of a big group coming down to get a special experience to the world. And when somebody from that enormous group of people all over the world, that's why you also can feel you're connected with a person in New York or in Asia or It's because you are a big group. If somebody dies, for example, in that big group, it will affect the whole group of people, and there is still coming big groups down, also to expand and do a better life for people, for mankind on Earth. It's always a evolution. We are a part of a big evolution, and to that big evolution is expanding the brain. Remember one time long ago, we couldn't even speak. We live in caves, or some live under the ground, and it was. And then we learned to paint, or then we learned to. Suddenly we learned to speak, and so there is an enormous evolution going on all the time, and I think that's something of the most exciting in life. That is, sometimes it feels that we go 10 step up and 2 step back. Then we go 10 step up again, and then we go 2 step. It's because sometimes it goes so fast. But the SQ is, from now on, you will see the technology expand enormous in the world. And for that reason, it's very important that we work with ourselves to be better people, to get rid of all our dramas, and to step into love and peace, so that we can use SQ to make a better world.
Absolutely. I mean, you're pointing to something very important, that we have to evolve at the speed of technology, because the technology doubles its own capacity every 18 months. Do you?
Okay.
So if we want to stay up to speed and not be surpassed by technology, we have to upgrade our own inner computer, and that's why we need to access other parts of the brain, such as the spiritual brain. I want to say something to the people who are skeptical, because this is not an advertising for spiritual intelligence. It's so fine to be skeptical, but I think that one of the things that I agree with the skeptics on is that we have to think for ourselves. So I really urge you to not believe anything you hear here, but to get your own experience, because that's the most convincing. You didn't read this anywhere, Merete. You experienced it, and when we experience something, then we know it's true. And I think that's actually the divine feminine, is the knowing. We don't need evidence. We don't need statistics. We just know. And I really urge every one of us to access that divine feminine in all of us.
Yeah.
The knowing, the inner knowing. So I don't urge you to believe anything that's said. Use it as an inspiration, but really go and get your own experience.
Yes.
And you can do that, as you said, Merete, by meditating, by praying, just prayer is really, really a powerful tool. And we actually also have evidence that shows that people who pray just have access to different, it just opens the heart in a different way. It gives us access to, it makes us open in different ways in the brain than people who are like, there's no need to pray, and who refuse to do that. So just that simple little gesture is an opening to more areas in the brain, in the heart. Meditate, or go out in nature and really listen to nature.
Yes.
There's so many ways to access it, and then experience for yourself. What is the response you get? What do you notice? We have to do like the scientists, experiment and notice the results to get experience ourselves. Because there is I say this also because I think that there is an inbuilt danger in the job that the two of us has, Merete.
Yeah.
We're like communicators about the new paradigm, and we are teaching, all the things that we're inspired by, we're passing on. But there's an inbuilt danger that I think we have to be very aware of, and that is to preach. That's one danger. And another danger is to impose one's own truth over others.
Yes.
And there's another danger, which is, making a new dogma.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem with religions, and that's why we shy away from many religions, because it's so full of man-made dogma.
Yeah.
So that's why people are like, no, not one more dogma, not one more spiritual intelligence dogma. Free us from this, convincing us of something that is not our own truth. So that's why I say, don't believe, don't eat everything and take it for truth. Experiment and get your own truth.
Yeah.
That's what I would recommend, because I think this is part of the new SQ. We all have SQ. We don't have to rely on tell us what to think.
Yeah.
We are sovereign beings.
Yeah.
Right?
I think make your own experience. Read a lot of books, see about a lot of film on YouTube. It's necessary. SQ is not a religion. Or no. It is human development, which is coming in now. It has started and is coming up more and more in the future. It is why I write about it, is because somebody should start. And we have done a lot of work in 25 years. And if children today are very sensitive, and they are more sensitive than you ever have seen before in history. And teachers think it could be possible to handle the very sensitive. But very sensitive young ones has their SQ very in front of their lives, because they experience how other people feel. It's also a part of it when SQ is on his way to open up in people. It starts with sensitivity, and it is hard for children to go in a classroom where half is or 1/3 maybe is high sensitive, and we have to educate those teachers in SQ so that they can experience, as you said. We all have to experience something. Some people use clairvoyance through their third eyes, and all the sensitive children have that ability open nearly from their birth. And it is also a part of SQ. It's also not something we should deal with and understand. And as grown-ups, it's necessary we listen and talk to them and try, instead of all those sickness. Yeah. Then love them and try to help them so that they trust their feelings and what they experience. For example, I can see when you are really on and you speak in a dialogue with me, then I can see the esoteric around you. I can see your guardian angel on your right side, but sometimes there also are some other persons in your right. I have to change it. And that is electromagnetic field. That is why you are in your SQ right now, especially when you talk, because then your guardians, agents, and other entities is around you and help you. And that's a kind of your inner life, but it is not, I can't see it all the time. I can only see it when it should be used for something. And now I have to tell it in this podcast. So, but so the world is much bigger than the normal eyes can see. And when you expand your SQ, you will get much more abilities, which will give you more confidence, and you will life will be easier.
Definitely, and more peaceful and more joyful.
And now I can see it again.
Yeah. It's actually very encouraging for all of us to know that there is so much more available to us.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, and that's why I actually sometimes feel it must be hard to be an atheist, because then you might feel very, very isolated and lonely, and what's going to happen when I die? You know, it can be quite scary. I think it must be scary at times. But it's very encouraging with all the people. I found very, very much encouragement in all the people who have been seeing and hearing and experiencing things before I was able to, because it was like giving me a sense of what was possible. So I also dared going for it and being open to it. It took me a very, very long time before I had any experience of it myself. But if I look back, I can see my intuition has really guided me. Like, it's like totally.
Yeah.
I made one important decision when I was 18, and that was to always follow my heart. And that has been a good guide, in the sense that has led me to a lot of experience that I can see in retrospect. Oh, they're all connected. There's a red thread.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging.
I also think there is one more thing we have to mention, is that when you want to expand your SQ, you also have to work with your ethic, your moral. You have to really deep into yourself, because you have to be a very honest person. You have to be honest to yourself, to what you are doing, to your family. You have to be human.
You have to be humble.
Yeah, humble. Yes, you have to be very, very humble. You have to learn when to speak and when to be silent. It's so important to learn to be silent, so you don't overrule other people. You said something about it before. Another thing I will mention is that you have to work also, or it is very important as ability to work with your thoughts. How do you? It's equal to ethic and that kind of thing. You have to be a bit more philosophical, I will say. So it's you really have to also work with your thought forms. What do you think? Because you can create everything through your open heart and your thought. Because the thought should also help you to get something managed, get it done reach your goals, you have to take one step forward, another, and don't only sit down and experience what is in my inner life and what is in my outer life. No, you have to act. It's so important. So those things I also think is important to bring in.
Absolutely, absolutely. To not be on this autopilot that just
Yeah.
repeatedly thinks negative thoughts and judgments and negative thoughts about self and others, and that autopilot is actually quite dangerous.
No,
and
now,
that's
yes,
a normal,
yeah.
don't you think?
I mean, because now it's nearly the last day of the year. It's in 2 days. And then I always do something for myself. I write, and I write what I want to happen for my next year. And I do this every year, and I do it in several steps. I do it for my health, for my work, for my family, for my inner life, as what do I want to do better for myself. So I have about 4 pages. And then I looked at it in the next year, about in December, start of December. And it's so funny to see how much I really had gained. And then I can next year see, is there something I will bring on, and I can take a look into why did a special thing didn't happen for me. And then I can see maybe I was too lazy, maybe I was afraid, maybe other things was happened. And then I can have a new thing I can work with myself to be more active in life. So I can recommend that little to do in the last day.
That is such a wonderful, that's a wonderful exercise and a wonderful way to maybe end this interview by recommending to take conscious leadership for what you bring into the world. And that requires stopping and reflecting and maybe even slowing so much down that you actually even write it down and you are making some conscious choices about where do you want to head, and then backing it up with action, of course. I mean, as much as possible.
Yes.
This is where the challenge is for most of us to actually follow up on our good intentions. But important to do, because I really believe that one of the special things about this era is that we understand our role as creators, conscious creators.
Yeah, it's why we are here.
Yeah, that's why we really that's the divine in all of us, that we all have that creative spark in us and the creative ability, and we have to use that with care, because we create so much that we don't want to experience. I mean, and I find that the response is getting faster. So, for example, if I think a negative thought about someone, I immediately experience a little bit of disturbance in my field, like a little bit, and so I'm thinking, what was just, I was judging over there. So I get aware that little turbulence, I feel that there's a very fast response now. So that gives us the opportunity to quickly align and say, okay, that's not what I stand for. I stand for, I stand for the 7 facets of 21st century leadership. One of them is integrity, walk the talk. So I have to align when I discover that I don't. So that we can be more aware of, what am I bringing into the world? Am I bringing the love and peace into the world that I want to experience? Am I bringing in the generosity into the world that I want to experience myself? Am I bringing in the creativity, the new solution, the constructiveness, or am I being a complainer and naysayer?
Yeah.
We have a lot of say, and I think this time of year that we're recording this is a very good time to remember this. But at all times of year, it's a good time to remember this, because
raise others, and then you will raise yourself. That's sound simple, but is difficult. But it's also a joy that we can be better people. It's a joy that we can work with what our heart really wants to bring to the world. It is it's fantastic to meet new people all the time and lift them up if it's possible, and also sometimes yourself be lifted. It's beautiful, beautiful. So we all have much more abilities to do everything. We are big creators, and we can be bigger enough. And I'm not afraid of the future. I think we have a great time, even there is war at the moment in Europe. Still, I think mankind develops and good. We develop many things in the mind worldwide to help all those who is suffering all over the world. So you mentioned the word holistic, Kirsten, because, and in Denmark, as a whole, we are a very holistic nation, and but we can still do it better. We will always could do it better. But even if we are able to do it better, and we don't actually do it right now, we don't have to be angry at ourselves. We can always only be where we are right now, but we always have a possibility to deep into our heart, to connect our soul, and get deeper into being a better person in the world.
Absolutely. And those are the beautiful words to end this with, and saying, if nothing else, we can, if it's difficult, even at times when it's difficult to do something good for ourselves and access this spiritual intelligence, an act of goodness in the world is always lifting both the giver and the receiver. So it's always a fast track to happiness and joy and that upliftment into a different vibration, a different level. So I think this is also good to remember, that we are not only creating a new year for ourselves and for our families and for our own, but this act of greatness, like how can I contribute? How can I give something that is lifting other people is a good deal for everybody.
Yeah. And if we believe in the law of attraction, which is very modern, and also a new paradigm coming up several years ago, if we really by heart means it, then we only have to send love to everybody we meet. Everybody. To our country, to our family, to colleagues. We don't compete at any level, because we contribute everyone with exactly what we have to do. Can also for every one of us be more better, I could say, than if we expand through our SQ. Open your heart, your brain, seek your guardian angel, open up to your soul. The soul alone is a light energy, and that special light energy, consider that light intelligent, that you have to come down into your brain to light up the new part of your brain, so that you could bring you to the world, to yourself and to the world.
That is a beautiful acknowledgement of the possibility all of us have to let in the soul light and let it shine brighter and let it spread.
And the soul light, Kirsten, is also the light that will bring you much more on and better health, because it go into your cells, and then your cells and the whole body will get more light, and it can better eliminate the incoming virus, you can say. So you will get a better health if you are getting contact with your SQ. So there is so many benefits.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to like? What's not to like? SQ is just creating, helping us experience a better life, and we are also contributing in a much better way. So I hope that you will take this to heart, that one of the things that is a good idea to cultivate from now on in the new year and in the years to come is our spiritual intelligence, and to be curious about it, to make some experiments for yourself, to further the experiments you already have had, and to just keep expanding and know that this is a never-ending field. You and I have been at it for very, very many years, and we will never stop, because it is like it's always opening and expanding deeper and more. So it's never ever boring. You're never ever there. It's like you never ever at the end. When you reach the end, you find out that's the beginning of a new cycle. So it's never boring. It's always expansive, and more joy, more and more love in the heart, more and more compassion, more and more creativity. So it's just a good deal for everybody.
Yeah. And then I think we are in the end, nearly in the end. Is it correct? Yeah.
It is.
And then I would like to say Happy New Year to all our listeners.
Yes.
And thank you very, very much, Kirsten, because you gave me this challenge here at the last days of 2022.
Yes.
Happy New Year also to you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to you, and thank you for showing up for the challenge, because I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to introduce the world to one of the pioneers. I think it's important to acknowledge the people who've done such a pioneering work, even when it was unpopular to talk about SQ, and even when people thought we were weird. It's just really important to acknowledge, well, actually, what you have been saying all along is what's becoming very necessary now. So, of course, I recommend reading Merete's books if you understand Danish, and getting interested. Merete posts almost every day something inspiring on the social media, something uplifting and of high vibration. So it's really worth following your work, Merete. I really appreciate your contribution. But let's go and prepare a happy new year for all of us. And thank you so much for your beautiful insights. And keep up the good spiritual intelligence work. To everybody who listened, thank you so much. I wish you will get something, just a little thing that will help you amp up your SQ and create more joy in your heart and more bliss in your life.